we're still here, resilient, finding your resilience, your inner resilience. We went through a lot of dark times ahead, but I feel like I have a lot of reserves of strength and hope and stuff inside.
That was Danielle Fernandez, whom you met briefly in the last podcast. I'm Jeff, and this is Storied San Francisco. In this podcast, Danielle shares the story of her life. With parents who were born and raised in the city and met at Sears on Geary and Masonic, Danielle spent her childhood living on the Peninsula, but visiting San Francisco for big family dinners regularly. She wound up going to Parsons in New York for fashion school and stayed in that city for nearly a decade after graduating. Homesickness and a few twists brought her back to the Bay, where she and Isaiah set out to create vibrant green spaces all over town. Here's Danielle.
My name is Danielle Fernandez, and I have an artist named Calibird because someone called me that one time, and it just stuck.
And is it the dual meaning of California and calligraphy? Is that
just,
right? Or,
no, just more
California.
Cali, and then they were saying you're like a bird, you kind of flitter around, and okay. And I just
That's
stuck.
a good name.
It just stuck.
Yeah.
So a lot of people they'll call me up and like Calibird. So that's an artist name I go by. So so Calibird.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's hear your story. I know you're from the area, and we talked a little bit before we started recording about at least one side of your family goes back at least 3 more generations, right? To the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Do you want to start there maybe? And let's hear it all and get up to you and
so
what the heck you're doing on this earth.
Okay. So my parents are from here. Mom from Potrero Hill. Dad
which
from,
I can see the edge of from here.
Right over there, Pennsylvania. So they grew up in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And my dad on Amherst and the Portola district.
Yeah, okay.
And my great aunt is was living on Thornton, so we're lucky to be living in her house. So my family has ties to this area. Mm-hmm. My dad has a lot of stories.
Oh yeah,
a lot of.
We'll get him on the podcast next season.
Oh my goodness, he tells a story like no other.
Cool.
No other, and he has a very vivid imagination. So. So
do you know much about either of your parents' stories of growing up and maybe how they met?
They met at Sears and Roebuck.
Over by where I live,
yes.
Geary and Masonic.
That's right.
Oh, shit.
Yes.
They worked there or?
They worked there.
There's part of me that was hoping like they're just customers one day.
But Dad, I forget, I believe Dad was working in the men's department. Mom was working in the women's department.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing about them is that Mom was kind of prim and proper. Mm-hmm. She, went to, now I can't even think of the high school that she went to. But she was senior class president.
Oh, okay.
She went to Presentation High School.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And Dad was on from the other side of the tracks, a little rough.
Yep.
He... greaser, kind of grease. He was into that, bars and things like that. Mm-hmm. But he had a heart of gold that she saw, and then her parents, my grandparents saw. So, very good guy. So they met, and then
met in maybe the 70s or 60s.
60s.
60s. Okay.
Yeah, 60s.
At Sears.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah. And, just stories about, when you talk, maybe when you have an opportunity he'll walk you through San Francisco at that time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. And then they had my brother. I have an older brother. And we moved down to South San Francisco, then to San Bruno, and then to Belmont.
Okay.
And that's where
kept migrating south a little bit. Yeah.
Dad worked for the city. He was a city landscaper.
For San Francisco or?
South San Francisco.
South San Francisco,
yeah.
okay.
So I think that's where I got my green thumb.
There
so
it is, yeah.
he does beautiful work in the garden. And I also had my auntie, Auntie Dolores, rest in peace, I was very, very close to on my mother's side.
Okay.
And she was an artist, and she was a landscape, just everything. She was just a visionary.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent a lot of time with her growing up.
Okay.
So I think I definitely took after her.
Absorbed some of that.
And even my dad will say, holy shit, you are just like your aunt.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, well, I thank you.
Yeah.
I feel very honored.
Right.
You know? She imprinted in good ways.
Okay.
So I think that's where I got a lot of my artistic sensibilities, my animal love, the love of earth.
Have those things been with you as long as you can remember?
Yeah.
You're born in the late 70s, let's just say. And so your growing up was mostly in the 80s and early 90s,
yes.
right?
Yes.
You lived in those towns just south of here, but do you remember your first trip to San Francisco?
Yeah, I do.
What did you think?
Of course, as a kid, you're just like, whoa, big city, lights, all this.
People on the streets.
Just everything going on.
Uh-huh.
We actually would go up to the city quite often because the whole family, the Fernandez family, would meet up. And
the restaurants we were talking about?
Yep, restaurants.
Do you want to name drop some of them?
Yeah. Bruno's.
Yeah. R.I.P.
Caesars.
I think, by the way. Definitely Caesars R.I.P.
Caesars R.I.P.
Yeah.
Green Valley in North Beach.
Okay.
We went to Spangers. We went to across the bay,
The Grotto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Grotto. We went to, anyway, we went everywhere. We went everywhere. But a lot of the restaurants were in the city.
So some of your...
Joe's of Westlake.
Yeah.
The Granada.
Yeah.
Granada. Nick's Rockaway. Kind of the old-timer type. Haven't changed in, the
ones
many
that are still there
decades.
still exactly
the same.
Are those some of your first memories of San Francisco? Would be in those restaurants?
Oh, yeah.
At these big family dinners.
Yes. And it was birthdays. It was just like Sunday night dinners. We would go and, it was exciting because, I had cousins that lived in, on the coast, cousins that lived in South City, and it was just so exciting to be able to look forward to seeing them. And it was a long dinner. We would get there at 3:00, and it still hasn't changed. When my parents want to meet us for dinner, they're like, "Can you meet us at 4?" And we're like, "Why is it so early? Can't we meet at 8?" They're like, "No." They like long dinners, and that's how it was because my grandparents, would come in and. It was greeting everybody at the bar. Everybody knew each other.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody,
And we're really involved in each other's lives, even if not physically. It's like the catching up and the talking about all the members of the family and what they're doing.
Yes.
It's also a cultural thing, am I right? It's like maybe a lot of American families, it's like you sit down and then you watch TV while you eat. Then there's the old school, probably comes from Europe and all that stuff, of sitting down and actually just being with your people. And it is about the food, but it's about the people. It's about the communal experience.
Yeah.
Sounds like that.
And the drinks and when you used to be able to smoke in bars, because there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
And then the jukebox.
Oh, yeah.
And my dad is a huge Frank Sinatra fan.
Awesome.
And once you have a little bit of drinks in him, he knows the whole anthology, So that was always entertaining to us as when we were little cousins, watching our parents and grandparents get kind of little looser and stuff. And we would be like, what? And
that's before karaoke. Does he do karaoke now?
No, it just does it on his...
He doesn't need to.
No.
He's just just put it on.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So those are my earliest memories of San Francisco. And then the other part was that my mom had a very, like, for a time, a successful food demonstration business. So back in the 80s, if you remember the ladies who used to give out samples in the supermarket.
Yeah, sure.
That was her business.
Wow, okay.
She employed tons of women, just from from, I don't know, like this whole Bay Area down to, I think, Fresno, up to Ukiah. Like, she had this whole
That was
thing.
a business.
That was
and
a
they would go into
business.
stores and do that.
Yeah. So sometimes what would happen is late at night, she'd get a call from one of her demonstrators or the store saying, hey, we don't have enough product. Can you get us product so you can, and then my mom would have to get product, boxes of whatever it was, Nabisco or something, that we'd have stored at the house. Just, they'd have some sent to the house. My mom would kind of be like, hey, it's 9:00. I know it's your bedtime. I got to go up to the city, or I have to go here. Come with me and make this delivery. And so I got a map of everything. Like, I figured out the maps, the roads. I paid attention to everything.
Okay.
Driving all throughout everywhere.
That
So
inner GPS that we were.
Yeah. So I figured things out really quickly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about maybe your teen years because you spent them, you lived there, but.
But we were coming to the city.
Yes.
Like, we were coming.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We were raving.
Yeah, you were. Did you have a pager?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The pager.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Are you even allowed now to talk about where some of these raves were? There's statute
yeah.
of limitations on raves.
Well, I have my very best friend, Shannon. Her parents are a little bit more lenient than mine, so I would spend the night over at her house.
She's that friend.
Yep. And her parents were like, where are you guys going? We're like, oh, we're going to this party in the city. We're like 15.
Technically true.
And they're like, oh, that sounds wonderful. Have a great time.
Yes.
What time are you guys going to be back? We're like, not really sure.
We might not know what time is by then.
My parents were like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But her parents were like, that sounds really great. So
as long as your parents would let you stay at Shannon's house,
of
then
course.
it's like free.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what were you doing after Shannon's? Oh, we're just watching movies. So, yeah, some of these raves were off of near the zoo. Like, I remember one near the zoo. Cool World, downtown. Like,
I think of more south of Market,
South of
and
Market.
over here, kind of like the old warehouse scene, right? I never went to any, but from stories I hear.
Yeah, they were fun.
Yeah.
And this was, now also, I only did acid once.
Mm-hmm. That's all it took.
That's it. I did once. Everybody in our high school thought that I was the one, the
druggie.
Like the druggie.
Yeah.
Because I was so off the wall, silly, goofy, doing random shit and stuff. But I wasn't. I was like pretty sober in high school. But having the time of my life, my friends and I would do the most random shit. Just random.
One
Just
example?
why? Okay. My friend had a hatchback, and someone would hide in the hatchback, and we'd roll around, but we'd leave it unhinged, and we'd be at a stop sign, and then they would pop up and go, "Rah!" and then come back down really slow, and then people would be like, "The hell's going?" And then we would think it was the most hilarious thing, and we'd make a night of it.
Yeah.
Just scaring people.
Harmless, ultimately.
It is harmless.
It's harmless. It's
harmless.
also before YouTube.
Yeah.
So we only, and smartphones, so we only have stories to tell, which I love.
So really funny stuff. And then in high school, I also worked. I worked at the pet store. So
here or down there?
Down in Belmont.
Okay.
So I got really into learning how to take care of freshwater, saltwater fish, reptiles, amphibians, birds, and so that kind of started my career in working with animals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I am aware of at least one detour when you lived in New York. What happened after high school for you?
Well, I had a failed attempt at going to vet tech school.
Where was that?
Sacramento.
Okay.
So I did that, but I was partying too much and I didn't pay attention to my grades, so I was kicked out.
Oh, okay.
And then I just worked I actually worked in research, biotech.
Oh, shit. Okay.
So I did that for a number of years and, was okay. It was okay. But I was always in the arts in some way, shape, or form. So even in high school, I was an artist, and then like in your 20s, I sort of felt like things just take a different route. I put my art off to the side. I didn't really do much. And it wasn't until a friend of mine was looking through, like, I don't know, I had an old art book, and he was like, wait a minute, you used to draw like this. I go, yeah. He's like, holy shit, what are you doing? And then I was like, yeah, maybe I should get into that. Like, I felt like maybe there's a missing component in my life, like more grounding type of, so.
More fulfilling or
more
differently at least.
Mm-hmm. And so I started to get back into my art.
And when was that-ish?
Like 27.
So still the early 2000s.
Early 2000s,
Got it,
yeah.
okay.
Then I started watching Project Runway.
Okay.
And then I was like, oh my gosh, it was so life-changing because I was like obsessed with, I'm not the most fashionable person, like personally, like I'm not obsessed with like labels and things like that. I just like the artistry of it and what all of these artists were creating and their signature looks and what they did with the challenges and things. So I got really into that so much that I started designing my own and sketching, and then I applied to the fashion school in New York.
New York.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I didn't tell anybody. About that. I just did it.
And then went off.
And like got in. And I told my dad, you're not going to New York. The hell are you talking about? You're not going to New York. I looked at my mom. My mom saw, you're going.
Yeah.
You're going.
Had you been there yet to New York City?
I did go as just a couple vacations, you know, but I've never really
spent time there.
So yeah.
So okay, let's.
Yeah. So anyway, moved to New York.
Yep.
And started this very, very, very challenging program. People will think, oh, it's fashion design, it's whatever.
It's fucking tough.
No. Not when you have put your life, like you've dedicated this and you want to do well and you want to grow as an artist and you're around all of these other very creative people. The competition is real. The professors are harsh. To the point where if you don't have a very strong sense of yourself, you'll like, a lot of people didn't make it.
Yeah, right.
The first year. They just couldn't make it. I had a lot of, just a lot of hard struggle, just trying to prove my aesthetic and stuff. So, yes, I had a lot of like eye-opening experiences with that. But I pushed through, and I think part of my ego was that I was going to be the next designer, right? But the reality of it is that it's very difficult to do that, only because you need a lot of money for startup, which I didn't have. So.
And the competition.
Really
donk.
Yeah, and then I started to have like this other thought about fast fashion. And, had a lot of friends who, after graduating, they were, getting jobs at these fast fashion companies.
I'm not familiar with fast fashion.
So working for the lines that they sell at Walmart or they sell at...
Got it.
Macy's or something, and there's no real creative part about it.
More for the masses.
More for the masses, to where
like
they would steal designs. They would look at the previous season or the current season, and they would just manipulate it a little bit, and then they would go have it mass produced in Vietnam. We were hearing about all the terrible, circumstances and conditions surrounding that. And then I just didn't feel good about it.
Right.
If I couldn't produce it in the U.S. under my own terms and pay people a fair wage, I didn't want to have anything to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't have that money.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to pivot again. So then pivot. Okay, so I've just graduated. What am I going to do?
4 years or how
I
long
went
was
for
that
2
program?
years.
I
went to San Francisco State as my undergrad.
You did that because everyone who's ever been on this show, including me, has an SF State connection.
Hey.
Sorry, Isaiah. But you have one. Yeah. I mean, it's requisite.
Yes.
It's like we all kind of know. But anyway, of course you went to State.
Sociology.
Okay.
Yes. So, so I did a 2-year program at Parsons.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Parsons. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned that. Okay, that's a big deal.
Well, it was because it was the school where they filmed Project Runway, the earlier seasons.
Okay.
So I wanted to be there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just wanted to be a part of that whole thing.
Did you love living in New York, or were you just consumed by school?
I was consumed by school in the beginning, and then I found my way in New York. And love, it was love-hate. Okay, let's just say love-hate.
Sure.
Certain times it was really tough and I was homesick.
Mm-hmm.
And then other times when it was the summer and I was biking all around Brooklyn going to the gardens and going to the house music, events and meeting all these people, then I loved it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, I love being a part of this and the energy of New York.
New York to me is like a person more than almost any city I've ever been to. I lived there briefly before living here, and it's like a person where it's like you can love it, but it has to love you back, and it does love a lot of people back. It didn't love me, and no offense taken. I love New York. I still it's like Jerry Springer or something, but it wasn't for me. It wasn't for living. Whereas here was like immediate. Fucking like, yes, this is where I need to be.
Yeah. I learned being very friendly person. I'm very open. When I moved to New York, I moved to Greenpoint, which heavy Polish residents, and I would just walk into their salons or to their stores. And I guess a lot of people didn't really do that.
Right.
And so I would just walk in and say hi. And then they would be like, can I get a haircut?
Yeah, right.
And then they're like, oh, okay, sure, okay. And I was able, then, after doing that so much, then I would be walking by and we'd wave. It was just like, and I felt more a part of that, community and stuff. I really did. I did well. I did well in New York.
Well, so what brought you back? You mentioned being homesick.
I was homesick, and then I wasn't homesick, and then I was homesick, and then I was feeling like, okay, my parents are getting older. So, and they were like, are you going to stay in New York? What's the ultimate plan here? Because I feel like maybe I don't know, like it could be, it's approaching 10 years, being out there. But then I said, okay, well, let me move back and be closer to my family, and
and when was that?
That was in 2018.
Oh, okay.
And just the way things kind of all happened, the house opened up, so we were able to have housing. I got a job. I flew out for a job, didn't get it initially, but then something fell through. They called me back, and so everything kind of happened, And we were like, okay, I guess we're doing this. We piled everything in the car and drove back. And
we are overlapping, if memory serves, because now you're using we to mean you and Isaiah.
Oh, yes.
Not a problem.
Right.
But let's hear your version of how y'all met.
Aw, well, when I was in New York, I had a couple boyfriends and stuff. The last one, just, how it is. It's just
you're
like
young.
Things don't work out. And then I was like perfectly content being by myself. I'd never been in that situation before where I was like, I love being independent, and like I'm good with being not alone. I'm never alone, but just being by myself, I was cool. I didn't see the need to just be like always partnered up with somebody, right? And I was talking to a friend about that, and she's like, oh, you should just come on, just go online and kind of just see, just put a profile out there, just see who. I was like, nah, I'm good. She's like, no, come on. I'm like, all right, I'll just do it. I'll just, and I did. And I remember like scrolling, and then I saw his picture, and I know, I was like, whoa, he's very handsome.
He's easy on the eyes.
And I was like, wow, okay. Okay. Let me just send him a little message.
So you sent the first message.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I did.
All right. And then do you want to hand off the mic real fast? What did you,
Meanwhile, I'm in Boulder Creek, Santa Cruz County, California. And I saw, and then she's in Brooklyn. I had just left Brooklyn. I'm in Santa Cruz. I didn't know anybody out there.
Not having the best time, if memory serves. You weren't, right?
Dude.
Yeah.
It was good. It was dangerous.
Yeah.
I had nobody. I didn't know anybody. Not too many. At first, not too many people knew I was even out there. I didn't tell my parents until I was maybe a month in. Because I was like, I didn't have a place in New York. I left without any place. And stuff was up in the air, and I thought it was coincidence that she's in Brooklyn. I just left Brooklyn, but she's from out here. And at that time, I didn't understand the geography. I thought Santa Cruz was like Brooklyn to Manhattan to San Francisco. It was all the Bay. It was all the one thing. It was it's crazy different.
The West in general.
The West
we're
is
a little
so
more vast, yeah.
Yeah, dude. So, it's different between Oakland. So I didn't know, but I said, she's from here, and I'm from there, and so boom. And then we talked on phone. And then I'm in I'm up there on a burner phone.
Right.
In fact, I used the same number I had from up there. I was on a phone like this.
Yeah.
But at that time, it was monthly, and I didn't have a car. So it was whenever the other guy would go to Costco runs and do that. And at one point, we weren't talking for like 2 months. We didn't speak with each other because he was hunting snakes with shotguns.
Yes.
And I'm like, he's going to kill me one day, but I'm going to cut a limb off. And no one's going to hear from him. I remember sending my man, Will, who's dead, rest in peace. I sent him this kid's address because I found his real name. I didn't even know his real name.
Jeez.
I knew this kid named Bam and this other guy. And so I found his real name on some mail, and I said, this is where I am. If I'm gone, this is who did it. This is responsible.
That's good. Yeah.
And then I talked to Dani, and then the first convo was just like, I remember I was walking, we're on a hill, 2 hours to get up the hill, 2 hours to get down, way up. They called it Meth Mountain back in the day. I used to do meth. He used to cultivate meth up there.
Yeah, and this is not Humboldt County. This is Santa Cruz County?
This is Santa Cruz, way south than Humboldt. Right. But I was talking to Dani, and I would walk, I was trying to walk down the mountain. I walked hella far on this mountain, which is a national park way up there. And I was walking and just talking to Dani for mad hours on that convo. And I just said, damn, I think I love this girl.
Did y'all have an inkling before you ever got on the phone when it was just the app messages? Did you have any idea? Or was it the phone where you're like, where you get to, like, it's another layer, right? It's a deeper layer.
For me, it was the phone.
Yeah.
And I remember her telling me about her parents on that, because I was walking on this mountain. This is the weed farm, 50 acres, and then I'm coming this opposite direction, which we never did. And then one guy who worked on it with me was so he never left the farm. He had a car, but he was never curious. After the day's work, let's just see what's on the other side. There's this, it's a stunning view. It's like God's country for real. I'm talking about, you see buzzards, you see mountains, and you could see that it used to be underwater millions of years ago. You see the fossils and all that. It was blowing my mind. And I'm talking to Dani.
Yeah.
And she's telling me, so I could just focus on what she's saying and see all this great background. She's talking about her parents. We talked about Illuminati. And I was really like, she's into some shit. And then I said, wow, she's deep like that. And I just got a crazy feeling
Meanwhile,
Yeah,
what were you thinking?
I would have to say that it was a different type of meeting, a different way of meeting someone and getting to know somebody.
Mhm.
Because prior to that, you just rush into things. Right? And it's just like fast. Like, oh, you have your person's right in front of you and, and with him, it was on the phone. It was, I sent a couple letters to you.
Yeah.
Care packages.
Oh, yes.
Because I was like thinking, wow, this person who I'm growing to like really care about is like, he's up there. He's telling me the conditions up there. And like, I just wanted him to have some kind of comforts from, just to, cause yeah. So
if I can draw an analogy, it's like you were stewarding him,
Yeah.
or like you were, right? Tending.
Yeah. And that's what you have to do.
Nurturing.
That's what you have to do.
Yeah.
You have to be vulnerable when you're getting to know somebody.
Yeah.
Because if you always have your guard up, and I'm sure my friends would have been like, you're sending him a care pack? That's a little much, or that's a little too soon. But my heart was saying, I'm not doing this for any other reason but to make this person who I care about feel good and feel loved and stuff.
Yeah.
Whatever this turns out, if we're going to be lifelong friends, because at this, we hadn't met face to face.
Right.
I didn't know how it was going to, turn out.
So then,
care packages were incense and chocolate, and I made him CD, like, you remember that back in the day?
I remember
CDs?
burning CDs.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Where I put like foreign exchange and Nicolay and like just these. But
she has a track list at least. Yeah.
Because I drew it.
Of course.
Yeah. She sent me stuff to do art, like pencils and paper to draw.
Yeah. And what else did I send? Anyway, and a pendant.
Oh my God.
Okay.
You gotta get. I gotta tell you about this because this is a crazy shit. This thing, she had imbued it with protective powers. And I believed her readily. I believe wholeheartedly. And on my fucking birthday, yes, in copper. And like I said, there was this kid over there that we weren't getting along. He was stealing on the cost. So I had it, and I believed in it. One day, on 50 Acre Farm we're on my birthday, I fucking lost that shit.
Oh.
Needle in the haystack?
Mm-hmm.
And I found that shit.
Mm-hmm. And you made it safely.
Yeah.
You're here.
Yeah.
You protected me. What?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Let's hear about when y'all did first meet.
Well, I flew out for my cousin's wedding, and I already asked him, like, we have to meet. He said, well, I only have like 24 hours that I can be gone because I have, committed to this work. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go down there and I'm going to pick you up, which I did. And he said, listen, I am a mountain man now. Like, I'm not the pictures that he sent.
Columbia grad mountain man.
He had a beard. His locks were down to his waist.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I'm going to try to make myself look as presentable as I can. And at that point, I really didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just wanted to have that face to face. And we did. And I remember I was in Boulder Creek. I was parked, and he walked up, and he had this big smile on his face, and I was just like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
wow, like it was, taken aback.
Skip a beat,
Yeah,
kind of thing. Yeah, cool.
And I think the feeling was mutual, and he got in the car, and it was just pure magic from the moment we got in the car till dropping him off. I mean, everything, when you just have those moments where everything just works out. We went up to the mission. We had a burrito. It was like this. It was
El Farolito. Yeah.
It was like 80 degrees.
Yeah.
He got to see
one of those days.
Yes. And got a burrito, listening to music, vibing, talking. Then we went over to Oakland, and he had to pass a couple tests. Especially from my friend Anais.
Okay.
One of my best friends, Anais, who was like, I need to meet him. And so we arranged.
All in that same day?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So went to go, and they went out, we were smoking and stuff and getting to know each other. And it was immediately connected. And Anais was just like, Then I used to do a lot of nannying for a lot of families all over the place. And prior to moving out to New York, I was a nanny for a couple in Berkeley. Mm-hmm. So they were like, we want to see you. And I said, well, I have my friend with me. Like, he's my love interest. Like, and they're like, bring him over.
Okay.
So Rachel and Vika and their kids cooked a beautiful family style meal, and he walked in. They loved him.
Yeah,
they loved him.
How can you?
Then we were like, okay, well, what do we do now? It's like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. What are we gonna do? Where are we gonna stay? Because we just kind of float by. We're just floating. Mm-hmm. They didn't make any concrete plans or whatever.
Seat of the pants.
And I'm like, you know what? Let me look for a hotel room, and we looked at that one in Berkeley, not Castlemont.
On University?
Up in the hills.
Or on the, Claremont.
The Claremont. Mm-hmm. Yes, the Claremont.
Dang, y'all.
Well, no, because at that, we were able to find a special. It was like, I don't know, $119 a night. I'm like, let's just do it. Well, wait. We went, right?
Oh.
And we go up to the front, and then she's like, oh, well, is this, what, is this a special occasion or something? And without missing a beat, he was like, yeah, it's our anniversary. Yeah. And she's like,
technically true.
Oh.
Your zero anniversary.
Right. Yes. So she's like, oh, really? And we made that Filipino connection too.
Yeah.
She switches out the key and hands us the key to the wedding suite.
What the hell?
At the Claremont.
Where there's like a bottle of champagne, that kind of thing? Like what?
Gigantic suite.
Yeah.
Gigantic suite.
I'm sorry, the universe answered y'all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Our theme this season is We're Still Here. And I'm sorry, but y'all are still here.
Yes.
Can you speak to what that means to you? I guess you first, Danielle, and then we'll end.
We're still here, resilient, finding your resilience, your inner resilience. We went through a lot of dark times ahead, but I feel like I have a lot of reserves of strength and hope and stuff inside. So even if I get to a bottom point, I'm able to reach in and like, all right, no, I'm not going to let this thing destroy me. I'm not going to be just a 9-to-5er, just trudging along, just focused on money, because that's not my goal in life. This is the goal. So, so just being hopeful.
Right on.
Yeah.
Isaiah, we're still here.
We're still here. That means to me it's just a reaffirmation of the work that we got to continue doing. And resiliency, yes, like Dani said. We met the guy, Vincent from the Aloni Cafe. There was 2 years, their language went moribund, and now it's on the rise, the numbers. And that's a tale of resiliency. So on to better, to continue the mission, make it better. We're going to make Bayview, we're going to restore it to its proper glory.
That was Danielle Fernandez. On the next episode of Storied San Francisco, we continue our City Gardens series with a visit to Sisterhood Gardens out in the OMI, where we talk with Jamie Chan and Tim Wong. Episode 42 drops next Tuesday wherever you listen to podcasts. Music for the podcast was produced, performed, and curated by Otis McDonald. Original photography is by Michelle Kilfeather. Aaron Lim of Bitch Talk Podcast is our contributing producer. And the show is produced and hosted by me, Jeff Hunt. Now in our 4th season, We have more than 180 episodes available on our website, storiedsf.com, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you can, please rate and review the show so we can reach even more folks. We love email, and we'd love to hear from you. Drop us a line at storiedsf@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Stay strong, stay healthy, and we'll see you next time on Storied San Francisco.
This podcast is a proud member of the BFF.FM podcast network. Learn more at podcasts.bff.fm.
BFF.FM, best frequencies forever.